Okay. We're back. Apparently, stream crashed. Let's hope this won't be a thing for the rest of the night. No, I'm back. Hello? 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 Meow meow. Meow meow. Meow meow. You were playing Katy Perry. Underclock. Why were you playing Katy Perry of all things? Of all the problematic girl bosses you could have played, Katy Perry couldn't have gone for a problematic queen worth her money like, I don't know, Beyonce. No, just kidding. Listen to whatever you want. You can California girls as hard as you'd like. Now I gotta wait through another ad break. Stupid OBS. One of these days I'll have a properly stable internet connection. Wait, if Pride Month is over, does that make this Prejudice Month? Yes. That's a good, give me one second. I'm stealing that joke. I have stolen your joke and there's nothing you can do about it. In fact, maybe I should just delete your last message. Then people think that it was my joke this entire time. Everyone will be like, oh wow, how did she come up with that one? That's so good. That is so good. How'd she do that? You don't get a sponsorship? I've been sponsored by Prime Energy Drink. Prime, taste the lead. Prime, it'll make you really connect to those boomers. Prime, it's for people who really, really, really enjoy that lead paint stare. Wow. Okay. Don't feel any pressure to don't feel any pressure to speak or to make some noise or to even stay awake. We're gonna start the novel in a second. Prime is the one with the Prime is the energy drink or protein drink with like the lead paint, right? It's the one that Mr. Beast tried to stick in Lunchly. Should I do a Gamer Subs ad read instead? Gamer Subs. Now, with 15 times the amount of caffeine a human should drink in a month. Gamer Subs. For when you need to get so hyper you get banned from League. Okay, Underclock, you want to hear a funny story about League of Legends? Before we start the book. Stop killing games. I don't mean the movement, I mean IRL. I see you trying to choke out your copy of Expedition 33. Stop it. Speaking of that, of the petition, we should put it here. Where's my advocacy channel? Or maybe it's not there. Where was it? Like someone posted about it somewhere in my games channel. There it is. Stop killing games petition. There we go. Underclock, you wanna hear a funny League of Legends story? It's really funny. So, my friend and I were playing, and we were playing bot lane together. And we had this Shaco in our jungle on our team, and he comes to gank us, and he just runs along the bushes in bot lane, not even using his stealth to close the distance, just like slowly walking while we do everything we can to get a kill. So he waits for my friend to die and just stands in the bush as we both are fighting for our lives in a 3v2 because he lured the enemy jungle into our lane. And then he takes one kill, lets me die, and then dies himself. And when I tell him what were you doing? Why didn't you help? He yells at me and he's like, maybe you needed a brain. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe you need a new brain. And I'm like, okay, you're getting reported and I don't care. I don't care because I don't really care about League of Legends games. But my friend was really pissed and he just looks at me and goes, I'm gonna start hard feeding. And I was like, oh, that's what we're doing today? Okay. So I start hard feeding too. And I was just like, sure, I don't mind. Now mind you, I've already had a game a week before where the jungler was trying to troll me. So I trolled him back by telling the enemy team in all chat exactly where he is for the entire game. So I was like, this is gonna be my second offense. I'm gonna get banned. I don't really care. We finished the game. We're both getting reported by everyone. My best friend gets banned instantly. Mind you, he's never had a warning on his account. And my account is fine. I don't even get a warning. I I'm just sitting there. Now, this is my best friend plays ranked every day for several hours, and he's super serious about League. Um, so he was obviously upset. So I turned around to him and I'm like, listen, honestly, with the way your account has been cursed lately, getting banned is the best thing that's ever gonna happen to you. You're gonna switch to your alt and you're gonna be at a much higher rank. And he was like kinda grumpy. Today I popped over to his place earlier and I asked him like, so how's the ban going? And he's like, I'm on my alt and this is the highest ELO I've ever been. And I just look at him and I go, I told you it's gonna be the best thing that's ever happened to you in League of Legends. I told you you're gonna rank up now that you're on a different account. He's like, yeah, I don't know. On this account, I gain so much ELO, and when I lose a game, I don't lose any at all. The moral of the story is, if your account is cursed, just troll toxic people on League, and then get banned and make a new account. Okay, let's make a serious pinned message. Responses will be slow while I read. Thank you for your patience and hope you enjoy the story. Heart. There we go. Manually unpin at the end of stream. Let's start the story then. By the way, is the sound okay? Sounds good, right? Also, another lesson, stop trying to hide in the bushes. Solid Snake is not real. Y'all just look like Limp Snake trying to emulate the game. You hear me? Okay. Now I'm just checking that it's all fine and it's all up to par. Let's start. Chapter 19. The next day opened a new scene at Longburn. Mr. Collins made his declaration in form, having resolved to do it without loss of time, as his leave of absence extended only to the following Saturday, and having no feelings of diffidence to make it distressing to himself even at the moment, he set about it in a very orderly manner, with all the observances which he supposed a regular part of the business. On finding Mrs. Bennet, Elizabeth, and one of the younger girls together soon after breakfast, he addressed the mother in these words: May I hope, madam, for your interest with your fair daughter Elizabeth, when I solicit for the honor of a private audience with her in the course of this morning. Before Elizabeth had time for anything but a blush of surprise, Mrs. Bennet instantly answered, Oh dear, yes, certainly. I am sure Lizzie will be very happy. I am sure she can have no objection. Come, Kitty, I want you upstairs. And gathering her work together, she was hastening away, when Elizabeth called out, Dear ma'am, do not go. I beg you will not go. Mr. Collins must excuse me. He can have nothing to say to me that anybody need not hear. I am going away myself. No, no, nonsense, Lizzie. I desire you will stay where you are. and upon Elizabeth seeming really with vexed and embarrassed looks about to escape, she added, "Lizzie, I insist upon your staying and hearing Mr. Collins." Elizabeth would not oppose such an injunction, and a moment's consideration, making her also sensible that it would be wisest to get it over with as soon and as quietly as possible, she sat down again and tried to conceal, by incessant employment, the feelings which were divided between distress and diversion. Mrs. Bennet and Kitty walked off, and as soon as they were gone, Mr. Collins began. "Believe me, my dear Miss Elizabeth, that your modesty, so far from doing you any disservice, rather adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness. But allow me to assure you, I have respected your mother's permission for this address. You can hardly doubt the purport of my discourse. However, your natural delicacy may lead you to dissemble. My intentions have been far too marked to be mistaken." Almost as soon as I entered the house, I singled you out as the companion of my future life, but before I am run away by my feelings on this subject, perhaps it will be advisable for me to state my reason for marrying, and moreover, for coming into Hertfordshire with the design of selecting a wife, as I certainly did. He is so overconfident. He's so honkin' overconfident, y'all. He's so sure that he's like, "Oh, I'm the Rizzler. Of course she's gonna say yes." The idea of Mr. Collins, with all his solemn composure, being run away by his feelings, made Elizabeth so near laughing that she could not use the short pause he allowed in any attempt to stop him farther. And he continued, "My reasons for marrying are, first, that I think it a right thing for every clergyman in easy circumstances, like myself, to set example of matrimony in his parish. Secondly, that I am convinced it will add greatly to my happiness, and thirdly, which perhaps I ought to have mentioned earlier, that it is the particular advice and recommendation of the very noble lady whom I have the honor of calling patroness. Twice has she condescended to give me her opinion, unasked too, on the subject, and it was but this very Saturday night before I left Hunsford, between our pools at Quadrille, while Mrs. Jenkinson was rearranging Miss de Bourgh's footstool, that she said, 'Mr. Collins, you must marry. A clergyman like you must marry. Choose properly. Choose a gentlewoman for my sake and for your own. Let her be an active, useful sort of person, not brought up high, but able to make a small income go a good way. This is my advice. Find a woman as soon as you can, bring her to Hunsford, and I will visit her. Allow me, by the way, to observe, my fair cousin, that I do not reckon the notice and kindness of Lady Catherine de Bourgh as among the least of the advantages in my power to offer. You will find her manners beyond anything I can describe, and your wit and vivacity, I think, must be acceptable to her, especially when tempered with the silence and respect which her rank will inevitably excite. Thus, much for my general intention in favor of matrimony. It remains to be told why my views were directed to Longbourn instead of my own neighborhood, where I assure you there are many amiable young women. But the fact is that being, as I am, to inherit this estate after the death of your honored father, who, however, may live many years longer, I could not satisfy myself without resolving to choose a wife from among his daughters, that the loss to them might be as little as possible when the melancholy event takes place, which, however, as I have already said, may not be for several years. This has been my motive, my fair cousin, and I flatter myself it will not sink me in your esteem. And now, nothing remains for me but to assure you, in the most animated language, of the violence of my affection. To fortune, I am perfectly indifferent, and shall make no demand of that nature on your father, since I am well aware it could not be complied with, and that £1,000 in the 4%, which will not be yours till after your mother's decease, is all that you may ever be entitled to. On that head, however, I shall be uniformly silent, and you may assure yourself that no ungeneral reproach shall ever pass my lips when we are married. He was really like, I'm going to propose to her with facts and logic, and then spent half of his speech talking about how in love he is with his patroness. He's just the goofiest guy, okay? He's literally the goofiest guy I've ever read about in a book. It was absolutely necessary to interrupt him now. You are too hasty, sir, she cried. You forget that I have made no answer. Let me do it without further loss of time. Accept my thanks for the compliment you are paying me. I am very sensible of the honor of your proposals, but it is impossible for me to do otherwise than decline them. I am not now to learn, replied Mr. Collins, with a formal wave of the hand, that it is usual with young ladies to reject the address of the man whom they secretly mean to accept when he first applies for their favor, and that sometimes the refusal is repeated a second or even a third time. I am, therefore, by no means discouraged by what you have just said, and shall hope to lead you to the altar ere long. You don't mean that. You don't mean you don't want me. What do you mean? Look at me. Upon my word, sir, cried Elizabeth, your hope is rather an extraordinary one after my declaration. I do assure you that I am not one of those young ladies, if such young ladies there are, who are so daring to risk their happiness on the chance of being asked a second time. I am perfectly serious in my refusal. You cannot make me happy, and I am convinced that I am the last woman in the world who would make you so. Nay, were your friend Lady Catherine to know me, I am persuaded she would find me in every respect ill qualified for the situation. Were it certain that Lady Catherine would think so, said Mr. Collins very gravely, but I cannot imagine that her ladyship would at all disapprove of you. And you may be certain that when I have the honor of seeing her again, I shall speak in the highest terms of your modesty, economy, and other amiable qualifications. Indeed, Mr. Collins, all praise of me will be unnecessary. You must give me leave to judge for myself, and pay me the compliment of believing what I say. I wish you very happy and very rich, and by refusing your hand, do all in my power to prevent your being otherwise. In making me the offer, you must have satisfied the delicacy of your feelings with regard to my family, and may take possession of Longbourn Estate whenever it falls, without any self reproach. This matter may be considered, therefore, as finally settled, and rising, she thus spoke. She would have quitted the room, had not Mr. Collins thus addressed her. When I do myself the honor of speaking to you next on the subject, I shall hope to receive a more favorable answer than you have now given me, though I am far from accusing you of cruelty at present, because I know it to be the established custom of your sex to reject a man on the first application. And perhaps you have even now said as much to encourage my suit as would be consistent with the true delicacy of the female character. Man was saying female even back then, and I hate it. I hate it. He called her a female to her face, and I hate it. Really, Mr. Collins, cried Elizabeth, with some warmth, you puzzle me exceedingly. If what I have hitherto said can appear to you in the form of encouragement, I know not how to express my refusal in such a way as to convince you of its being one. You must give me leave to flatter myself, my dear cousin, that your refusal of my address are merely words of course. My reasons for believing it are briefly these. Here he comes with the facts and logic again. It does not appear to me that my hand is unworthy of your acceptance, or that the establishment I can offer would be any other than highly desirable. My situation in life, my connections with the family of de Bourgh, and my relationship to your own are circumstances highly in my favor. And you should take it into further consideration that, in spite of your manifold attractions, it is by no means certain that another offer of marriage may ever be made you. Your portion is unhappily so small that it will in all likelihood undo the effects of your loveliness and amiable qualifications. He really just said that. He really just said you are so poor that it balances out with how beautiful and how personable you are. I am stunned. This level of clownery. This is the kind of clown honk they talk about derogatorily, and I can't even fault anyone for calling this clown honk in a derogatory way. Um, your portion is unhappily so small that it will in all likelihood undo the effects of your loveliness and amiable qualifications, as I must therefore conclude that you are not serious in your rejection of me. I shall choose to attribute it to your wish of increasing my love by suspense, according to the usual practice of elegant females. Elegant females. this guy is the worst. This guy is the worst. Where was I? I do assure you, sir, that I have no pretensions whatever to that kind of elegance which consists in tormenting a respectable man. I would rather be paid the compliment of being believed sincere. I thank you again and again for the honor you have done me in your proposals, but to accept them is absolutely impossible. My feelings in every respect forbid it. Can I speak plainer? Do not consider me now as an elegant female intending to plague you, but as a rational creature speaking the truth from her heart. You are uniformly charming, cried he with an air of awkward gallantry. I am persuaded that, when sanctioned by the express authority of both your excellent parents, my proposal will not fail of being acceptable. To such perseverance in wilful self-deception, Elizabeth would make no reply, and immediately in silence withdrew, determined that if he persisted in considering her repeated refusals as flattering encouragement, to apply to her father, whose negative might be uttered in such a manner as must be decisive, and whose behavior, at least, could not be mistaken for the affectation and coquetry of an elegant female. An elegant female. Ooh. That is chapter 19. Let's take a small little water break. This is wild. This guy is wild. There's something almost comforting in knowing that Jane Austen had to deal with the exact same kind of men that we have to deal with today. Right? There's something kind of comforting about that. Like how long has it been? Like 200 years almost? Nothing's changed. And I kind of like that. Ridiculous, man. What do you think, Jack? Do you think Elizabeth is only rejecting him as part of the elegant coquetry of an elegant female? Is Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Collins the OTP? God, it's getting hot again in my room. Like the PC is heating up. I'm trying to function as a space heater. I wish I could buy a little freezer and stick the PC inside of it. And then the PC will always be cool. You know? Just a tiny little freezer that's just the size of the PC. Okay. Let's move on to chapter 20. Chapter 20. Mr. Collins was not left long to the silent contemplation of his successful love, for Mrs. Bennet, having dawdled about in the vestibule to watch for the end of the conference, no sooner saw Elizabeth open the door with a quick step past her towards the staircase. Then she entered the breakfast room and congratulated both him and herself in warm terms on the happy prospect of their nearer connection. Okay, Mommy Bennett is just as delusional, I see. Mr. Collins received and returned these felicitations with equal pleasure, and then proceeded to relate the particulars of their interview, with the result of which he trusted he had every reason to be satisfied, since the refusal which his cousin had steadfastly given him would naturally flow from her bashful modesty and the genuine delicacy of her character. I'm sorry, but every time I'm reminded of the fact that he is proposing to his cousin, I. Ugh. Ugh. Jane Austen, why? Why? There's no way England didn't know this was wrong. If, I don't, I don't, I don't want to think about it. Okay. This information, however, startled Mrs. Bennet. She would have been glad to be equally satisfied that her daughter had meant to encourage him by protesting against his proposals, but she dared not believe it, and could not help saying so. But depend upon it, Mr. Collins, she added, that Lizzie shall be brought to reason. I will speak to her about it myself directly. She is a very headstrong, foolish girl, and does not know her own interest. But I will make her know it. Pardon me for interrupting you, madam, cried Mr. Collins, but if she is really headstrong and foolish, I know not whether she would altogether be a very desirable wife to a man in my situation, who naturally looks for happiness in the marriage state. If, therefore, she actually persists in rejecting my suit, perhaps it were better not to force her into accepting me, because, if liable to such defects of temper, she could not contribute much to my felicity. Sir, you quite misunderstand me, said Mrs. Bennet, alarmed. Lizzie is only headstrong in such matters as these. In everything else, she is as good-natured a girl as ever lived. I will go directly to Mr. Bennet, and we shall very soon settle it with her, I am sure. Oh. She would not give him time to reply, but hurrying instantly to her husband, called out, as she entered the library, "Oh, Mr. Bennet, you are wanted immediately. We are in an uproar. You must come and make Lizzie marry Mr. Collins, for she vows she will not have him, and if you do not make haste, he will change his mind and not have her." Mr. Bennet raised his eyes from his book as she entered, and fixed them upon her face with a calm unconcern, which was not in the least altered by her communication. "I have not the pleasure of understanding you," said he, when she had finished her speech. "Of what are you talking about?" "Of Mr. Collins and Lizzie. Lizzie declares she will not have Mr. Collins, and Mr. Collins begins to say he will not have Lizzie." "And what am I to do on the occasion? Seems a hopeless business." "Speak to Lizzie about it yourself. Tell her that you insist upon her marrying him. Let her be called down. She shall hear my opinion." Miss Bennet rang the bell, and Miss Elizabeth was summoned to the library. "Come here, child," cried her father as she appeared. "I have sent for you an affair of importance. I understand that Mr. Collins has made you an offer of marriage. Is it true? Elizabeth replied that it was. Very well. And this offer of marriage you have refused? I have, sir. Very well. We now come to the point. Your mother insists upon your accepting it. Is it not so, Mrs. Bennet? Yes, or I will never see her again. An unhappy alternative is before you, Elizabeth. From this day you must be a stranger to one of your parents. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins, and I will never see you again if you do. Okay, Daddy Bennett is just on King Honk all day long. Daddy Bennett is our unproblematic king. We love Daddy Bennett. So you don't want to marry him? No. Okay, well then, this is a problem because either your mom is never going to speak to you again because you won't marry him, or I'm never going to speak to you again for letting that annoying man into my family and making him a mainstay of my life. I love him. Elizabeth could not but smile at such a conclusion of such a beginning, but Mrs. Bennet, who had persuaded herself that her husband regarded the affair as she wished, was excessively disappointed. What do you mean, Mr. Bennet, by talking in this way? You promised me to insist upon her marrying him. My dear, replied her husband, I have two small favors to request. First, that you will allow me the free use of my understanding on the present occasion, and secondly, of my room. I shall be glad to have the library to myself as soon as may be. Not yet, however, in spite of her disappointment in her husband, did Mrs. Bennet give up the point. She talked to Elizabeth again and again, coaxed and threatened her by turns. She endeavored to secure Jane in her interest, but Jane, with all possible mildness, declined interfering. And Elizabeth, sometimes with real earnestness and sometimes with playful gaiety, replied to her attacks. Though her manner varied, however, her determination never did. Mr. Collins, meanwhile, was meditating in solitude on what had passed. He thought too well of himself to comprehend on what motive his cousin could refuse him, and thought though his pride was hurt, he suffered in no other way. His regard for her was quite imaginary, and the possibility of her deserving her mother's reproach prevented his feelings any regret. While the family were in this confusion, Charlotte Lucas came to spend a day with them. She was met in the vestibule by Lydia, who, flying to her, cried in a half-whisper, I am glad you are come, for there is such fun here. What do you think has happened this morning? Mr. Collins has made an offer to Lizzie, and she will not have him. Charlotte had hardly time to answer before they joined by Kitty, who came to tell the same news, but no sooner had they entered the breakfast room. I'm guessing she had popcorn in hand when she did, where Mrs. Bennet was alone. Then she likewise began on the subject, calling on Miss Lucas for her compassion, and entreating her to persuade her friend Lizzie to comply with the wishes of her family. Pray do, my dear Miss Lucas, she added, in a melancholy tone, for nobody is on my side. Nobody takes part with me. I am cruelly used. Nobody feels for my poor nerves. Charlotte's reply was spared by the entrance of Jane and Elizabeth, Eh, there she comes, continued Mrs. Bennet, looking as unconcerned as may be, caring no more for us than if we were at York, provided she can have her own way. But I tell you what, Miss Lizzie, if you take into your head to go on refusing every offer of marriage in this way, you will never get a husband at all. I am sure I do not know who is to maintain you when your father is dead. I shall not be able to keep you, and so I warn you, I have done with you from this day. I told you in the library, you know, that I should never speak to you again, and you will find me as good as my word. I have no pleasure in talking to undutiful children. Not that I have much pleasure indeed in talking to anybody. People who suffer as I do from nervous complaints can have no greater inclination for talking. Nobody can tell what I suffer, but it is always so. Those who do not complain are never pitied. I love her. I love how much of a drama queen she is, I'll be honest. She she reminds me of most Jewish mothers that I know. Her daughters listened in silence to this effusion, sensible that any attempt to reason with or soothe her would only increase the irritation. She talked on, therefore, without interruption from any of them, till they were joined by Mr. Collins, who entered with an air more stately than usual. And on perceiving whom, she said to the girls, "Now, I do insist that you, all of you, hold your tongues, and let Mr. Collins and I have a little conversation together." Elizabeth passed quietly out of the room. Jane and Kitty followed, but Lydia stood her ground, determined to hear all she could, and Charlotte, detained first by the civility of Mr. Collins, whose inquiries after herself and all her family were very minute, and then, by a little curiosity, satisfied herself with walking to the window and pretending not to hear. In a doubtful voice, Mrs. Bennet thus began the projected conversation. "Oh, Mr. Collins, my dear madame," replied he, "let us be forever silent on this point. Far be it from me," he presently continued, in a voice that marked his displeasure, "to resent the behavior of your daughter. Resignation to inevitable evils is the duty of us all, the peculiar duty of a young man who has been so fortunate as I have been in early preferment, and I trust I am resigned. Perhaps not the less so from feeling a doubt of my positive happiness had my fair cousin honored me with her hand, for I have often observed that resignation is never so perfect as when the blessing denied begins to lose somewhat of its value in our estimation. You will not, I hope, consider me as showing any disrespect to your family, my dear madame, by thus withdrawing my pretensions to your daughter's favor, without having paid yourself and Mr. Bennet the compliment of requesting you to interpose your authority in my behalf. My conduct may, I fear, be objectionable in having accepted my dismission from your daughter's lips instead of your own, but we are all liable to error. I have certainly meant well with the whole affair. My object has been to secure an amiable companion for myself, with due consideration for the advantage of all your family. And if my manner has been at all reprehensible, I here beg leave to apologize. Well, at least it took him long enough, but at least he understands. At least he gets it. I do believe we will be going on ad break in a few. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a little break. I need to get some more water. And especially in this heat, the breaks are really important. So I'm gonna get a little bit more water, and I'm gonna just wash my face for a little bit to refresh, and I'll be right back. I will leave you with some Fields of Mystery music, the update of which is coming this month, and I'm very excited about it. Oh, hi, Mr. Tacos. 1 second. Let me turn the music down. Hi, Mr. Tacos. Thank you so much for the follow. One moment. Mr. Tacos. Mr. Tacos. Mr. Thank you for the follow. I was just about to head on a short break. I'm really sorry, but it's timed like this, but I really need to refill my water. So I will be right back and we'll continue to read the book. In the meantime, do a little stretchy if you've been sitting around for a bit. And I'll be right back. just a clown. I'm the clown. I'm the clown. How you doing, Chopper? It's a nice app. Thank you. I made it myself. I'm really proud of it. I really feel like I found my style with the past few models I've made. I really feel like I finally found my art style. I don't know, before the low poly stuff, I kind of felt like I was just sort of finding my way, trying to copy all these different styles, see what works for me, and now I'm just like, I'm there. I've got the technique, I've got the tools, I can finally do the thing. Really like the last one. The last one is still here. The last one isn't gone. I think what I'm going to do is, like, she's not gone in any way, you know? Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. But yeah, the last one is definitely not gone, and what's gonna happen is I am going to make like an updated version of it. Because there's a bunch of things that I have thought before that I should fix about her. Like, even when I just put her out, I was already like, oh yeah, there's this and this and this that I'll improve in the next version. And she's gonna stay around as like a redeem where like you can summon her for like a few minutes at a time for a few points. But I'm really enjoying this a lot more. That's always the good part with self-made Abbies. Always make additions and changes, yeah. When you learn to do it yourself, it's really nice that like whenever you want, you can make the new version, you can change the style, you can add a new expression, you can do whatever you want. But yeah, there is going to be more versions of the clown, both different kinds of clown, because this is like very classic white face clown, what I've got going on here. But I also want like a sad Pierrot version, and I want a slightly more like acrobat jester version and all sorts of stuff, with this being the main design. And I also want like a slightly more updated version of that other Abby. Yeah, they'll definitely have slightly different colors for each different version of this like each different version of Dolly the clown will have like slightly different colors, different outfits. There is going to be a mine version. I've already decided on that. I will have it hooked up to a redeem that's like shut up, and then like I'm gonna make a redeem that makes me shut up for like a minute or so, and then it's gonna be like you're splashing paint, but you're splashing like the opposite of paint, and it turns me into a mime for like a minute or so. It'll happen. It'll definitely happen. It'll also be a great model for visual ASMR, I think, which will also be fun. But yeah, I've got a lot of big plans. It's gonna be fun. Oh, there's our ad break. There's our ad break. this before we continue with the book. But how have you been, Chopper? How are you? I hope you've had better weather this past week than I have, because here in Spain it's been pretty rough the past week or so with the heat wave. Yeah, I've been alright. All things considered, I've been alright. The heat wave is very, very... like, I get very overstimulated in the heat, and I also suffer from some very rough chronic migraines. So it's definitely been a bit of a challenge, but we're getting through it. Taking care of myself, I'm stopping streams when I need to, if I need to stop them early. It is what it is. From the UK, oh yeah, the UK has had it worse than us, honestly, from what I've seen. Like slightly higher temperatures and the same near 100% humidity situation. Yeah, it's been rough. I'm really hoping that, like, over the weekend the heat wave will finally break. We'll have a bit of rain. That'll break all the humidity. We'll be okay. Everything will be okay. By the way, this game is getting an update, the game that we're listening to the music of. The update is gonna be this month. I don't know when this month, because they haven't posted. Oh, July 21st, we're getting the next Mystria update. This is Fields of Mystria, which is, honestly one of my favorite games that I've played in the past year. Fields of Mystria is like, it's one of those games that has a similar formula to Stardew Valley, where like you get a farm and you're helping around town and you're growing your farm and raising animals and crops, and you have the mines and everything. But it's really well written with like really nice characters that are also very much interacting with each other constantly. And like, you've got magic in this game, you've got a lot of story in the game. It's really great. I really recommend it. I think it might be on sale right now. Oops. Oopsie. I'm sorry about that. It is. It's on sale. It is 11 euros right now. 20% off. I will send it in chat. I am not sponsored by this game. I am just their biggest fan. Fields of Mystria, if you want to sponsor me, that'll be super cool. If you don't, I'm still gonna be telling everyone to buy you. I genuinely think this is one of the best games to come out on early access in the past year. Yeah, okay. The ad break is over. So how about we return to Pride and Prejudice? Let me get a bit of water before we start the next chapter. Is this a long one or a short one? It's a medium one. It's a medium one. Always enjoyed them more with friends. Hmm. I get that. I can see that, yeah. Mystery is still in early access, and I don't. They definitely don't have multiplayer yet. I don't know if they plan on adding multiplayer. Um, but like, I honestly cannot praise this game enough. Sorry. Sorry, I had a little sneeze there. Okay. If I ever do get around, definitely pop into stream to let you know. It'll go on my wish list at least. Yeah, later in the month, on the 21st, they're releasing a big update. So I'll be playing it again for like a couple of days as I like blast through all of the new content they'll be adding, basically, which is what I do every time they release an update. And I plan to start a new save as soon as they launch the game fully. So, like, if you want to watch what the game looks like one day, you're welcome to hang out while I stream it. I mean, obviously, you're welcome to hang out while I stream it. But yeah, I am planning to stream a lot more of it. Chapter 21. The discussion of Mr. Collins' offer was now nearly at an end, and Elizabeth had only to suffer from the uncomfortable feelings necessarily attending it, and occasionally from some peevish allusion of her mother. As for the gentleman himself, his feelings were chiefly expressed, not by embarrassment or dejection, or by trying to avoid her, but by stiffness of manner and resentful silence. He scarcely ever spoke to her, and the assiduous attentions which he had been so sensible of himself were transferred for the rest of the day to Miss Lucas, whose civility in listening to him was a seasonable relief to them all, and especially to her friend. The morrow produced no abatement of Mrs. Bennet's ill humor or ill health. Mr. Collins was also in the same state of angry pride. Elizabeth had hoped that his resentment might shorten his visit, but his plan did not appear in the least affected by it. He was always to have gone on Saturday, and to Saturday he still meant to stay. After breakfast, the girls walked to Meryton to inquire if Mr. Wickham had returned, and to lament over his absence from the Netherfield ball. He joined them on their entering the town, and attended them to their aunt's, where his regret and vexation and the concern of everybody were well talked over. To Elizabeth, however, he voluntarily acknowledged that the necessity of his absence had been self-imposed. "I found," said he, as the time drew near, "that I had better not meet Mr. Darcy, that to be in the same room, the same party with him for so many hours together, might be more than I could bear, and that scenes might arise unpleasant to more than myself." She highly approved his forbearance, and they had leisure for a full discussion of it, and for all the commendations which they civilly bestowed on each other, as Wickham and another officer walked back with them to Longbourn, and during the walk he particularly attended to her. His accompanying them was a double advantage. She felt all the compliment it forced to herself, and it was most acceptable as an occasion of introducing him to her father and mother. Soon after their return, a letter was delivered to Miss Bennet. It came from Netherfield and was opened immediately. The envelope contained a sheet of elegant little hot-pressed paper, well covered with a lady's fair, flowing hand, and Elizabeth saw her sister's countenance changed as she read it, and saw her dwelling intently on some particular passages. Jane recollected herself soon, and putting away the letter, tried to join with her usual cheerfulness in the general conversation. But Elizabeth felt an anxiety on the subject which drew off her attention even from Wickham. And no sooner had he and his companion taken leave than a glance from Jane invited her to follow her upstairs. When they had gained their own room, Jane, taking out her letter, said, "This is from Caroline Benchley. What it contains has surprised me a good deal. The whole party have left Netherfield by this time, and are on their way to town, and without any intention of coming back. You shall hear what she says." And she read the first sentence aloud, which comprised the information of their having just resolved to follow their brother to town directly, and of their meaning to dine that day in Grosvenor Street, where Mr. Hurst had a house. The next was in these words: "I do not pretend to regret anything. I shall leave in Hertfordshire, accept your society, my dearest friend. But we will hope, at some future period, to enjoy many returns of that delightful intercourse we have known, and in the meanwhile may lessen the pain of separation by a very frequent and most unreserved correspondence. I depend on you for that." To these high-flown expressions Elizabeth listened with all the insensibility of distrust, and though the suddenness of their removal surprised her, she saw nothing in it really to lament. It was not to be supposed that their absence from Netherfield would prevent Mr. Benchley's being there, and as to the loss of their society, she was persuaded that Jane must soon cease to regard it for the enjoyment of his. "It is unlucky," said she, after a short pause, "that you should not be able to see your friends before they leave the country. But may we not hope that the period of future happiness to which Miss Benchley looks forward may arrive earlier than she is aware, and that the delightful intercourse you have known as friends will be renewed with yet greater satisfaction as sisters? Mr. Benchley will not be detained in London by then." "Caroline decidedly says that none of the party will return to Hertfordshire this winter. I will read it to you. When my brother left us yesterday, he imagined that the business which took him to London might be concluded in 3 or 4 days, but as we are certain it cannot be so, and at the same time convinced that when Charles gets to town he will be in no hurry to leave it again, we have determined on following him thither, that he may not be obliged to spend his vacant hours in comfortless hotel. Many of his acquaintance are already there for the winter. I wish I could hear that you, my dearest friend, had any intention of making one in the crowd, but of that I despair. I sincerely hope that your Christmas in Hertfordshire may abound in the gaieties which that season generally brings, and that your beau will be so numerous as to prevent your feeling the loss of the three of whom we shall deprive you. It is evident by this, added Jane, that he comes back no more this winter. It is only evident that Miss Bingley does not mean he should. Why will you think so? It must be his own doing. He is his own master. But you do not know all. I will read you the passage which particularly hurts me. I will have no reserves from you. Mr. Darcy is impatient to see his sister, and to confess the truth, we are scarcely less eager to meet her again. I really do not think Georgiana Darcy has her equal for beauty, elegance, and accomplishments, and the affection she inspires in Louisa and myself is heightened into something still more interesting from the hope we dare to entertain of her being hereafter our sister. I do not know whether I ever before mentioned to you my feelings on this subject, but I will not leave the country without confiding them, and I trust you will not esteem them unreasonable. My brother admires her greatly already. He will have frequent opportunity now of seeing her on the most intimate footing. Her relations all wish the connection as much as his own, and a sister's partiality is not misleading me, I think, when I call Charles most capable of engaging any woman's heart. With all these circumstances to favor an attachment, and nothing to prevent it, am I wrong, my dearest Jane, in indulging the hope of an event which will secure the happiness of so many? What do you think of this sentence, my dear Lizzie? Said Jane, as she finished it. Is it not clear enough? Does it not expressly declare that Caroline neither expects nor wishes me to be her sister, that she is perfectly convinced of her brother's indifference, and that if she suspects the nature of my feelings for him, she means most kindly to put me on my guard? Can there be any other opinion on this subject? Yes, there can, for mine is totally different. Will you hear it? Most willingly. You shall have it in a few words. Miss Bingley sees that her brother is in love with you and wants him to marry Miss Darcy. She follows him to town in the hope of keeping him there, and tries to persuade you that he does not care about you. Jane shook her head. Indeed, Jane, you ought to believe me. No one who has ever seen you together can doubt his affection. Miss Bingley, I am sure, cannot. She is not such a simpleton. Could she have seen half as much love in Mr. Darcy for herself, she would have ordered her wedding clothes. But the case is this. We are not rich enough or grand enough for them, and she is the more anxious to get Miss Darcy for her brother, from the notion that when there has been one intermarriage, she may have less trouble in achieving a second, in which there is certainly some ingenuity, and I dare say it would succeed if Miss de Bourgh were out of the way. But, my dearest Jane, you cannot seriously imagine that, because Miss Bingley tells you her brother greatly admires Miss Darcy, he is in the smallest degree less sensible of your merit than when he took leave of you on Tuesday, or that it will be in her power to persuade him that, instead of being in love with you, he is very much in love with her friend. I really like the way Elizabeth is talking here like that. She would have already ordered her wedding clothes. The cases that were not rich enough for them. We're not good enough for her. So she's anxious for it. She's kinda shady, but she's like, she's speaking 100% truth. I love her. I just really love her. If we thought alike of Miss Bingley, replied Jane, your representation of all this might make me quite easy. But I know the foundation is unjust. Caroline is incapable of willfully deceiving anyone, and all that I can hope in this case is that she has deceived herself. That is right. You could not have started a more happy idea, since you will not take comfort in mine. Believe her to be deceived, by all means. You have now done your duty by her, and must fret no longer. But my dearest sister, can I be happy, even supposing the best, in accepting a man whose sisters and friends are all wishing him to marry elsewhere? You must decide for yourself, said Elizabeth. And if you, upon mature deliberation, find that the misery of disobliging his two sisters is more than equivalent to the happiness of being his wife, I advise you by all means to refuse him. How can you talk so? Faintly said Jane, faintly smiling. You must know that, though I should be exceedingly grieved at their disapprobation, I could not hesitate. I did not think you would, and that being the case, I cannot consider your situation with much compassion. But if he returns no more this winter, my choice will never be required. 1,000 things may arise in 6 months. The idea of his returning no more Elizabeth treated with the utmost contempt. It appeared to her merely the suggestion of Caroline's interested wishes, and she could not for a moment suppose that those wishes, however openly or artfully spoken, could influence a young man so totally independent of everyone. She represented to her sister as forcibly as possible what she felt on the subject, and had soon the pleasure of seeing its happy effect. Jane's temper was not desponding, and she was gradually led to hope, though the diffidence of affection sometimes overcame the hope, that Bingley would return to Netherfield and answer every wish of her heart. They agreed that Mrs. Bennet should only hear of the departure of the family without being alarmed on the score of the gentleman's conduct, but even his partial communication gave her a great deal of concern, and she bewailed it as exceedingly unlucky that the ladies should happen to go away just as they were all getting so intimate together. After lamenting it, however, at some length, she had the consolation of thinking that Mr. Bingley would be soon down again, and soon dining at Longbourn, and the conclusion of all was the comfortable declaration that, though he had been invited only to a family dinner, she would take care to have 2 full courses. Hi, kitten! Welcome in! Welcome, welcome! How are you? Hi, hi! How you doing? Let me shout you out real quick. Everybody follow Kitten. Kitten is a very talented artist and a very, very, very chill person who I met through Alessia. And you should all go follow her. It's 5 a.m. It's 5 a.m. for me as well. We're in the same time zone. I'm very nocturnal. I'm usually up at this hour. Yeah, time zone friends. Yay! But yeah, I'm very nocturnal, especially during summer. During summer, I like to sleep during the day when it's hot, and then I wake up when it starts cooling down and I can function again. Yeah. What are you up to today? Do you have any plans? Got any exciting art that you're working on? Hmm. This looks like a shorter. Hmm. We are in chapter 22. I want to check how much is left. We are in chapter 22. There are a lot more chapters. Does anyone know what L in Roman numerals means? I have no idea. I'm just getting ready for bed and just drinking more Ridley. Ooh, you don't do much. What about me? My plan is to keep reading story a bit for chat, and L is 50. That makes sense. Yeah. My plan is to keep reading novel for a bit, and then I'll have a snack, and then I'll probably go to sleep. I'll probably try to either sleep early or I'll do a bit of art because I do have a commission right now. I do have a commission going on that I need to finish soon. I'm a bit behind on it. I'm trying not to take more than 2 weeks to deliver a commission. Like the most I want to take 2 weeks if like things are, very, very distractible, I guess. Comms are rough. It's my first commission ever, is the thing. But I it probably would have been ready already, but there life has been very chaotic the past 2 weeks. I need to apologize to Fig. Um, Next time I talk to them, life has been very chaotic the past 2 weeks, so it's been a bit hard to give it as many hours a day as I usually plan to. I feel yeah, especially the heat wave is making it so hard to focus. I've been like, I've had like today I had Blender open for like 6 hours, and what I did was just like I tab over to Blender, I work for like 10 minutes, and then I tab out because I can't focus anymore. PC wouldn't work at all in the heat. Oh no. Oh yeah, you've got to update it soon. Yeah, mine has been overheating and I really need to clean it up. I need to clean it up a lot. And I think that like I might buy some more cooling for it. I don't know what kind, but it is 5 years old to be fair. Mine is 2.5 years old. My computer, I think. Right? Because I've been here for 3 years, so 2.5, yes. 1 second, I got a little sneeze. Oh no, the sneeze isn't coming out. Oh no. Help me, chat. I need to sneeze, but it won't come out. Help. Sneeze. It's not working. Oh no. It's okay, I'll sneeze in a bit. Um, it'll be in the middle of a sentence while I'm reading the novel, and then it'll be funny. It's also a budget build. I see. But I kind of like budget builds for PCs sometimes because it's nice to be able to just like get something that's kind of good for now and then upgrade it over time. Um, I This PC was the first time I really splurged on a PC in a long time, because before it I had a laptop, a gaming laptop, um, that survived for 9 years. 9 years? 8 years. So I was using it for 8 years in a row, every day, morning till all day long. um, I'm intense with technology, y'all. My phone was the same. I I had my previous phone for 9 years. I don't. It is hard to convince me to buy new tech. Like, no, but I like it. I like I like that it's all beat up from years of me using it. I'm I'm using a keyboard that's like 20 something years old. Has love marks. Exactly. Exactly. It's part of it is from like when I was growing up and when I studied, because I've been playing trumpet since 8 years old, and when I was growing up, I don't remember, I can't remember right now who told me this, but one day, like, I banged my trumpet, and a bit of the silver, uh the like silver that they like cover your trumpet in, got like came off, and there was like a bit of exposed brass, and I showed it to someone, and I was like, oh no, my trumpet, I accidentally bumped it against something, oh no. And I was really upset about it, and then they were like, but that's how they were like, no, that's how, like, it gets personality. It's not really your instrument until you've banged it on something by accident a couple of times. It doesn't have a personality until there's a few scratch marks and stuff from like all the times you took it traveling and took it on shows and stuff. And I love that attitude. It's an attitude that, like, uh, I've noticed that musicians are very extremely I polarized on that, between like the ones that are like, my instrument has to be maintained in perfect, fresh out of the store condition at all times, and the musicians that are like, the more banged up my instrument is, the more it is my instrument. I love both sentiments in a way. I have a little bit of, I lean more these days towards the little scratches and stuff give it personality, but growing up, having like this very Soviet teacher, this very Soviet trumpet teacher, I was definitely on the opposite side of like, no, it must be maintained in store-bought condition. Yeah, I should model a trumpet for my Avi so I can have a toggle and I can go. I don't want to be too loud because it's 5 a.m. and there's people asleep and my window is open. I can do trumpet sounds. Alright, guys, sadly gotta get some eeps. Okay, have a good sleep. Yeah, I should probably get back to the novel. I had fun talking to you. I'm in a yappy mood, chat. I'm in a very yappy mood today. Okay, let's continue with the novel. The Bennets were engaged to dine with the Lucases, and again, during the chief of the day was Miss Lucas so kind as to listen to Mr. Collins. Elizabeth took an opportunity of thanking her. It keeps him in good humor, said she, and I am more obliged to you than I can express. Charlotte assured her friend of her satisfaction in being useful, and that it amply repaid her for the little sacrifice of her time. This was very amiable, but Charlotte's kindness extended farther than Elizabeth had any conception of. Its object was nothing less than to secure her from any return of Mr. Collins's addresses by engaging them towards herself. Such was Miss Lucas's scheme, and appearances were so favorable that when they parted at night, she would have felt almost sure of success if he had not been to leave Hertfordshire so soon. But here she did injustice to the fire and independence of his character, for it led him to escape out of Longbourn House the next morning with admirable slyness, and hastened to Lucas Lodge to throw himself at her feet. He was so anxious to avoid the notice of his cousins, from a conviction that, if they saw him depart, they would not fail to conjecture his design, and he was not willing to have the attempt known till its success could be known likewise. For, though feeling almost secure, and with reason, for Charlotte had been tolerably encouraging, he was comparatively diffident since the adventure of Wednesday. His reception, however, was of the most flattering kind. Miss Lucas perceived him from an upper window as he walked towards the house, and instantly set out to meet him accidentally in the lane. But little had she dared to hope that so much love and eloquence awaited her there. Oh, so Charlotte was kind of planning to... I can't understand if she was planning to nab her for herself, or if she just really wanted to distract him from Elizabeth. In as short a time as Mr. Collins' long speeches would allow, everything was settled between them to the satisfaction of both. As they entered the house, he earnestly entreated her to name the day that was to make him the happiest of men. Oh, so she said yes. Oh. I was really not... Okay. I was half thinking that maybe she kind of wants him for herself, but I wasn't sure. That is interesting. I guess the two side characters are married off and can just honk off into the sunset to make him the happiest of men. And though such a solicitation must be waived in the present, the lady felt no inclination to trifle with his happiness. The stupidity with which he was favored by nature must guard his courtship from any charm that could make a woman wish for its continuance, and Miss Lucas, who accepted him solely from the pure and disinterested desire of an establishment, cared not how soon that establishment were gained. Oh. Okay, she just wants the money. She just wants the money. I respect that, kind of. Is he rich? I can't figure out if he's like particularly rich or not, because the Bennett estate that he's supposed to inherit is not huge. And on the other hand, he's a clergyman, which I always thought that they weren't supposed to be rich. I guess he is rich. I don't know. Sir William and Lady Lucas were speedily applied to their consent, and it was bestowed with the most joyful alacrity. Mr. Collins's present circumstances made it most eligible a match for their daughter, to whom they could give little fortune, and his prospects of future wealth were exceedingly fair. Lady Lucas began directly to calculate, with more interest than the matter had ever excited before, how many years longer Mr. Bennet was likely to live. Shady, shady lady! Those are your friends! Shady lady! Oh my god, and I thought she was such a good friend this whole time. Sir William gave it his decided opinion that whenever Mr. Collins should be in possession of the Longbourn estate, it would be highly expedient that both he and his wife should make their appearance at St. James's. The whole family, in short, were properly overjoyed on the occasion. The younger girls formed hopes of coming out a year or two sooner than they might have otherwise done. The boys were relieved from their apprehension of Charlotte's dying an old maid. Charlotte herself was tolerably composed. She had gained her point, and had to consider of it. Her reflections were in general satisfactory. Mr. Collins, to be sure, was neither sensible nor agreeable. His society was irksome, and his attachment to her must be imaginary. But still, he would be her husband, without thinking highly either of men or of matrimony. Someone's a little bit of a lesbian, isn't she? Marriage had always been her object. It was the only honorable provision for well-educated young women of small fortune, and, however uncertain of giving happiness, must be their pleasantest preservative from want. This preservative she had now obtained, and at the age of 27, without having ever been handsome. She felt all the good luck of it. The least agreeable circumstance in the business was the surprise it must occasion to Elizabeth Bennet, whose friendship she valued beyond that of any other person. Elizabeth would wonder, and probably would blame her, and though her resolution was not to be shaken, her feelings must be hurt by such disapprobation. She resolved to give her the information herself, and therefore charged Mr. Collins, when he returned to Longbourn to dinner, to drop no hint of what had passed before any of the family. A promise of secrecy was of course very dutifully given, but it could not be kept without difficulty, for the curiosity excited by his long absence burst forth in such very direct questions on his return as required some ingenuity to evade. And he was at the same time exercising great self-denial, for he was longing to publish his prosperous love. As he was beginning to journey too early on the morrow to see any of the family, the ceremony of leave-taking was performed, when the ladies moved for the night, and Mrs. Bennet, with great politeness and cordiality, said how happy they should be to see him at Longbourn again, whenever his other engagements might allow him to visit them. "My dear madam," he replied, "this invitation is particularly gratifying, because it is what I have been hoping to receive, and you may be very certain that I shall avail myself of it as soon as possible." So Mrs. Bennet is still planning on him marrying one of the daughters. They were all astonished, and Mr. Bennet, who could by no means wish for so speedy a return, immediately said, "But is there not danger of Lady Catherine's disapprobation here, my good sir? You had better neglect your relations than run the risk of disappointing your patroness." "My dear sir," replied Mr. Collins, "I am particularly obliged to you for this friendly caution, and you may depend upon my not taking so material a step without her lady's concurrence." "You cannot be so much on your guard. Risk anything rather than her displeasure, and if you find it likely to be raised by your coming to us again, which I should think exceedingly probable, stay quietly at home and be satisfied that we shall take no offense." Mr. Bennet Mr. Bennet is like the king of shade in this book. He's so funny. He's just literally so funny. "Believe me, my dear sir, my gratitude is warmly excited by such affectionate attention, and depend upon it, you will speedily receive from me a letter of thanks for this as well as for every other mark of your regard during my stay in Hertfordshire. As for my fair cousins, though my absence may not be long enough to render it necessary, I shall now take the liberty of wishing them health and happiness, not excepting my cousin Elizabeth." With proper civilities, the ladies then withdrew, all of them equally surprised to find that he meditated a quick return. Mrs. Bennet wished to understand by it that he thought of paying his addresses to one of her younger girls, and Mary might have been prevailed on to accept him. She rated his abilities much higher than any of the others. There was a solidity in his reflections which often struck her, and though by no means so clever as herself, she thought that, if encouraged to read and improve himself by such an example as hers, he might become a very agreeable companion. But on the following morning, every hope of this kind was done away. Miss Lucas called soon after breakfast, and in a private conference with Elizabeth, related the event of the day before. I really like that that Mary viewed him as like a project, she looks at him the way the guy in Pretty Woman looks at Julia Roberts, and that like, I can teach him, I can turn him into a proper young fellow. He's in the rough right now, but I can work with this. I just think it's really funny. Where was I? I'm sorry. The possibility of Mr. Collins's fancying himself in love with her friend had once occurred to Elizabeth within the last day or two, but that Charlotte could encourage him seemed almost as far from possibility as she could encourage him herself, and her astonishment was consequently so great as to overcome the first bounds of decorum, and she could not help crying out, "Engaged to Mr. Collins, my dear Charlotte, impossible!" The steady countenance which Miss Lucas had commanded in telling her story gave way to a momentary confusion. Here, on receiving so direct a reproach, though, as it was no more than she expected, she soon regained her composure, and calmly replied, "Why should you be so surprised, my dear Eliza? Do you think it incredible that Mr. Collins should be able to procure any woman's good opinion, because he was not so happy as to succeed with you? But Elizabeth had now recollected herself, and, making a strong effort for it, was able to assure her with tolerable firmness that the prospect of their relationship was highly grateful to her, and that she wished her all imaginable happiness. "I see what you are feeling," replied Charlotte. "You must be surprised, very much surprised. So lately as Mr. Collins was wishing to marry you, but when you have had time to think it all over, I hope you will be satisfied with what I have done. I am not romantic, you know, I never was. I ask only for a comfortable home, and, considering Mr. Collins's character, connections, and situation in life, I am convinced that my chance of happiness with him is as fair as most people can boast on entering the marriage state." Elizabeth quietly answered, "Undoubtedly," and, after an awkward pause, they returned to the rest of the family. Charlotte did not stay much longer, and Elizabeth was then left to reflect on what she had heard. It was a long time before she became at all reconciled to the idea of so unsuitable a match. The strangeness of Mr. Collins making 2 offers of marriage within 3 days was nothing in comparison of his being now accepted. She had always felt that Charlotte's opinion of matrimony was not exactly like her own, but she could not have supposed it possible that, when called into action, she would have sacrificed every better feeling to worldly advantage. Charlotte, the wife of Mr. Collins, was a most humiliating picture, and to the pang of a friend disgracing herself and sunk in her esteem was added the distressing conviction that it was impossible for that friend to be tolerably happy in the lot she had chosen. Give me a second to ban someone. Um, oh, okay. A bot came here and then apparently the account was deleted before I even had the chance to ban them. Let's see. It's been 2 hours. I do think that I'll call it here for today. It's very warm. I'd like to take a shower to freshen up a bit. I started a bit later than I was hoping to, but I think that, yeah, 2 hours for a reading stream is good. I don't want to tire my voice out too much. I am streaming tomorrow and the day after. Thank you for the smooth Aww. Thank you for hanging out sober. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And for anyone watching, please feel free to join the Discord. Don't forget to leave a follow if you enjoyed the stream. I will have socials up. Like, I'll have all my links set up within a few days, but in the meantime, please do follow my YouTube. It is youtube.com/@lepidolly. VODs are going to start going up there, starting with today. I'm uploading this right after stream. And also, gonna start filling it up with YouTube Shorts, with VODs in general, some edited content like highlight reels, stuff like that. And I'm also gonna start cross-platform streaming pretty soon, so it would be very helpful. And yeah, what else? What else? Leave a follow, subscribe if you enjoyed. For the YouTube viewers, don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. If anyone's feeling generous, there's my throne link. Who should we raid? Who should we raid? I'm not seeing any of the ASM artists that I follow and like to raid around, except like some really big ones, and I don't feel like going over to the really, really big ones. Let's find someone cute, maybe. Nah, looking around like this right now, rather just. I think I'll just end stream today without raiding. Because I don't. Well, yeah, I'll end stream without raiding today because it's an ASMR stream and I don't have an ASMR artist to raid. I will see you all tomorrow for some Little Witch in the Woods, some cozy gaming. Good night.